Thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd also like to thank our hosts, New York City College of Technology, CUNY, and our media partner, Brick Arts Media, Brooklyn's premier video producer of local news and social justice reporting. And now we invite to the stage your Deputy Borough President, the Reverend Kim Counsell, for tonight's invocation.
Good evening, Brooklyn. Thank you so much for being here today. Let us pray. Dear God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. Lord, we thank you for the many ways in which you have blessed us, and we thank you for preserving our lives and allowing us to be in this space today. We have gathered from every neighborhood in Brooklyn and all across this city in this most splendid place that we call home, a place full of diversity and wonderful of hope and dreams, where the challenges are great but the possibilities are endless. Tonight we are grateful. We're grateful for the mosaic of cultures that blend together to create a tapestry like no other place in the world. We're grateful for leaders named Schumer, Jeffries, James, Adams, Williams, Velasquez, and Reynoso, who bring their lived experiences to their styles of leadership, to the nation, to the state, to the city, the borough, and who proudly call Brooklyn home. We are grateful for every man, woman, boy, girl, and non-binary being who by birth or by choice have made Brooklyn their own. We are ever mindful that every day there are systems at work that seek to undermine this beautiful borough, that there are people who seek to divide and conquer, that our problems often seem insurmountable, and that there are times when we feel that the only way to be heard is to be the loudest person in the room and to rage against the machine, that there are times when we feel disconnected and helpless. And as we look out over this world that you have created, it's hard sometimes to reconcile man's inhumanity to man. In those times, let us remember that we are not alone, that you are with us just as it is darkest right before dawn, that there is hope even when we feel hopeless. I pray that you would strengthen and guide us in the days to come. Help us to build bridges and repair relationships. Help us to understand that our true strength is revealed when we show love and compassion for one another. Help us all to understand that justice and peace go hand in hand. Tonight, as we sit here focused on all the great work that has been done and the plans that lay ahead, let us continue in a spirit of gratitude for each and every individual who is under the sound of my voice, for those who are in elective office, who carry the burden of leadership. Let them never forget the reason why they are in the positions that they hold. For every resident that is here tonight, I know you, God, to be a God that provides. So whatever it is that they stand in need of, I pray that you would grant their needs right now. I lift up a young man named Antonio, who for years have fought for the least of these and continue to lead and guide him as he spreads love the Brooklyn way. Thank you for leaders who are not focused on what is popular or politic, but what is right. I ask that you would give us all of the courage to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with you. It is in the mighty name of Almighty God that I pray. Let every heart say amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Deputy Borough President. We'll have a moment of silence in honor of the 17th President of the greatest borough, the Honorable Howard Golden. Thank you. And now, will everyone please stand for the singing, or the playing of the national anthem of the United States of America. And now, let's hear it for our first speaker tonight, New York State Attorney General, Brooklyn's own, Attorney General Letitia James.
I love you. I want to thank the Borough President Reynoso, and our Deputy Borough President, Kim Council, and I want to thank all of you for greeting me and for loving on me and for praying with me and for your texts and your comments. I truly appreciate Brooklyn. Because tonight, it's really all about the Brooklyn way and the power of Brooklyn. You see, this morning, Speaker Adrienne Adams graced us at BAM, and she gave a powerful speech that can only be delivered in Brooklyn. Exactly. And tonight is a day to celebrate all that Brooklyn has accomplished in the past 24 months with our Borough President Antonio Reynoso leading the way. Now, we all know that behind every great man is a more extraordinary, smarter, and patient woman. So I want to acknowledge and thank his beautiful bride, his wife, Ileana. Where is she? Where is she? Where? There she is. There she is. Ileana. And I know her two babies, their two babies are not here, but let's give it up for Alejandro and little Andres. I've known Antonio for many years. He was a city council member when I became the public advocate of the city of New York, the best public advocate, by the way, of the city of New York. And it's been an honor to witness his compassion and his commitment to communities in Brooklyn and beyond. And that's been especially true during his tenure as Brooklyn Borough President. This city and this country, we face one unprecedented emergency after another, from unemployment to gun violence to economic impacts of COVID-19, the continued crisis in affordable housing, with Brooklyn being right at the center of this epicenter. We know these factors impact low-income individuals, and we also know that they disproportionately impact communities of color. But Brooklyn Borough President Reynoso has been a leader on a mission with bold and innovative approaches to addressing the issues plaguing our families each and every day. He has shown us that he will do whatever it takes and work with whomever he needs to work with, all for the greater good. Over the past 24 months, he put an end to the illicit parking on the Borough Brooklyn Hall Plaza. Yes, yeah. He has aggressively pushed for the development of more affordable housing throughout Brooklyn, truly affordable housing for individuals who need it most. And I want to give President Reynoso a special shout out for focusing on Brooklyn's health care services by strengthening safety net hospitals, especially for pregnant individuals and the babies, as he has promised, because we all know that maternal health care is a major issue, not only in New York, but all across this nation. And we all know that as women of color, we die at a faster pace than any other group. And so it's really critically important that we thank Borough President Reynoso for focusing on this issue. For the first time in history, he allocated all $45 million of the 2022 capital budget to pregnancy care at Brooklyn's 3 public hospitals. And in the words of Jumaane Williams, that's dope. Or, in the words of Comptroller Brad Lander, that is so meaningful. So, So whether you're in Coney Island, is Coney Island in the house? Crown Heights in the house? Bed-Stuy in the house? Bushwick in the house? Greenpoint in the house? Brooklyn Heights in the house? Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, you in the house? It's all good because we're all Brooklyn, right? Yeah! What is it? Oh, Lord, oh, Lord. Okay, and all the other counties and communities, yay! I love you all. Brooklyn is the center of the universe. It's the heart and the soul of our city. Mayor Adams has swag, but so does our borough president. And Brooklyn, my friends, I know all of you are in the house. Is Brooklyn in the house? Where's Brooklyn at? Well, Brooklyn is here, and the best, my friends, is yet to come, because my good friend Antonio is presente, and he is ready to lead and ready to love the Brooklyn way. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to work with our borough president, and it is an honor and a privilege to be from where? Brooklyn! God bless you. Thank you.
Please, another round of applause for Brooklyn's own Attorney General Letitia James.
Let's hear it one more time for the badass Attorney General of New York State. How lucky are we to have somebody who doesn't have any fear in taking on the most important fights of our time, whether that's Donald Trump or the NRA or folks trying to deed theft in Brooklyn. One more time for New York State Attorney General Letitia James. We have her back, don't we? All right, it's great to be here with you. I'm New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. It's my job to watch the books, so you can believe me when I tell you from a fiscal point of view, ain't no doubt that Brooklyn is the best borough. You can audit it. And I just want to briefly tell you about the best day I had ever with our incredible Borough President Antonio Reynoso. It was on South 4th Street on the south side in Williamsburg, and he was, all right, let's hear it for the south side. I know I'm not going to do the whole roster of neighborhoods, but that day was the South Side Block Party and Film Festival, and then council member, soon-to-be Borough President Antonio Reynoso, had organized this amazing day on South 4th Street on the south side. And it was a film festival, and there were Latino artists who had made these incredible movies that people were watching. And you know there was great music, and old ladies were dancing merengue with Antonio, and old men were dancing with Ileana, and the whole block was out there. And there's been a lot of gentrification in Williamsburg and around the south side, but on that block especially, because Los Sures has been fighting to make sure not just that people could stay in their neighborhood, but have ownership of their neighborhood, because that's affordable limited equity co-ops on South 4th Street, and there's community organizations, and the neighborhood continues to own there. And so people are not getting displaced. I mean, it's going on all around. But on that day, not just the folks dancing merengue and the folks that have been in the neighborhoods a long time, some of the hipsters were coming over because they had heard there was a film festival, and some of our friends from the Orthodox community were there as well. And you could see a future in which, yes, there's a lot of vibrant economic activity, and there's creative people making films, but there's also old-timers that have been there forever, and there's working-class people that are working hard in their neighborhood and aren't getting pushed out because they've been made affordable cooperative homeowners, and they put down roots, and they have community organizations. And then what's beautiful about Brooklyn is not just its amazing diversity, but the fact that people could own it and control it together. And the folks aren't going to get pushed out and displaced, but that all the kind of people in this room, all the kind of people on that block make and own Brooklyn together. And there was no doubt who the mayor of that day was. He was then the council member and soon to be the borough president, a son of the South Side, Antonio Reynoso. And you could see in his leadership that that's not just the past of Brooklyn, that is the present and the future of Brooklyn, and that if we fight for a place where everyone is genuinely equal, has real opportunities for affordable housing and homeownership, have real equality in healthcare, understand that culture is something that people bring with them and make together, and then everybody rises, that is what it means to spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. And that is why I am thrilled to call myself a resident of the borough, with the best borough president anywhere, with respect to all the other borough presidents who are in the room. Give it up for that son of the South Side and your and my Brooklyn Borough President, Antonio Reynoso. Thank you all very much.
How's everybody doing? You all right? Thank y'all for being here. I'm excited to speak a little bit about my friend Antonio Reynoso. I rock with Antonio Reynoso because he really gets what we need to be doing. He is one of the folks that understand the seat that we are holding is not more important than the people we are representing, and it's really, really important. And if you look at where we were 20, 30 years ago, our leadership wasn't as diverse as it is now. But that diversity doesn't mean much if you don't do anything with it. And so sometimes we confuse black and brown people, persons doing better, with black and brown people doing better. And I like to rock with Antonio Reynoso because he knows that even while we were diversifying our leadership, black and brown people were either being displaced or had to leave because they couldn't afford to stay here. And so he really understands that all folks, black, white, brown, working class, immigrant, need leaders not to just diversify, but to actually do something with the position that they're in. Y'all still with me? Yeah. I rock with him because he understands that public safety cannot just be left to our law enforcement alone. That if they could solve the problem, they would have, and they have an important job to do. But to keep a community safe, you need housing, you need health care, you need access to good food, you need good mental health. And he understands that just militarizing our subway is not only harmful, it is unsustainable. And that's the type of people that we need right now. He understands that if you are going to pray for the hostages in Gaza, you have to pray for the people in Gaza. And if you are going to pray, which you should, for the hostages to come home, you also have to ask for a ceasefire of what's going on immediately. And that's the type of moral clarity that you can have. Because our Brooklyn is made up of so many people in pain, and we have to lift up all of that pain. You can't just lift up one side or the other, but everybody's in pain, in mosques, in synagogues, and churches, and we have to lift it all up. He understands that if black women are dying, giving birth at a rate that they are, we all have to be concerned about it. And that is the type of leader that we need in today's politics. And so I am excited that he asked me to come out and speak with the Comptroller, with the Attorney General. I'm just excited to be here for the people of Brooklyn. And with that, I'm going to just say, it's dope. Brooklyn out. Peace and blessings. Love and light to you all. Appreciate it.
With party time in the borough of Brooklyn, as Antonio Reynoso says ixnay to spending on local celebrations.
Yesterday, we were celebrating Latino Heritage Month in Borough Hall. It's the last celebration that we're going to be holding. And I was just sitting there thinking, we're about to celebrate Latino heritage when we have these 120,000 migrants that are here, are mostly from Latin American countries. I just felt like we can do better. And it just sent the wrong message that we would celebrate instead of looking to provide resources for the crisis that we have at hand. We are now moving away from celebrations and moving into our office of service. So we're going to celebrate through service. What we're trying to do is stop just warehousing migrants, which is what it seems like we're doing, and start moving to making them a part of the fabric of New York City, whether it's jobs, getting them into schools, finding housing, just the overall care for them. We haven't been treating them like the potential residents of New York City that they're going to be.
Brooklyn Borough President's office recently released its comprehensive plan for Brooklyn.
And what we're doing is a blueprint. just being very thoughtful about how we're building and where we're building, what needs are in our community, and how we can start addressing those issues in a thoughtful, comprehensive way, and get back to planning and zoning, being able to assist people in health outcomes. We have the data, why not use it? This city doesn't work that way. Brooklyn will.
You've made maternal mortality a main priority.
Arguably the most important thing that I'm doing as a borough president. What we've done is given $45 million to the 3 public hospitals in Brooklyn. And my goal is to make Brooklyn the safest place for all women to have babies in 4 years, and I can make it the safest place for all women to have babies in the entire country in 8.
Please give a strong Brooklyn welcome to our own Mr. Antonio Reynoso.
Good evening. Cannot believe it's already been a year since I was last up on stage delivering my first State of the Borough as president of the greatest borough in the city of New York, Brooklyn. But I want to say just we spread love in Brooklyn, so you're from Queens, you're from Manhattan, it's all love. Borough President Donovan Richards from Queens is here. Can we give him a round of applause? Borough President Mark Levine from Manhattan. I know Borough President Vanessa Gibson from the Bronx. We spread love here, so we're all good. But before we get started, I wanted to send my love and gratitude to my family, to my beautiful wife, Ileana. Thank you so much for being here. To my 2 incredible sons who are most certainly growing up too fast, my parents, and everyone else who keeps me going. I want to thank my colleagues and fellow elected officials, and I got a list here. So we're going to roll them out here. So we already saw the Attorney General Letitia James, Comptroller Brad Lander, Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, mi congresita Nidia Velasquez. We said hi to all the borough presidents. Councilmember Chio Say. Councilmember Rita Joseph. Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse. Councilmember Lincoln Ressler. Councilmember Crystal Hudson. Councilmember Justin Brannon. And from Manhattan, Councilmember Eric Botcher. Councilmember Alexa Aviles. Councilmember Susan Swan. We have District Leader Roberto Camacho. District Leader Jackie Painter. District Leader Julio Peña. The third, we're not talking about his grandpa. District Leader Shaquana Boykin. District Leader Felix Ceballos. And District Leader Aaron O'Young. All right. And if you are here and an elected official and I didn't call you, you got here late. So that's on you. All right. All right. Somebody will pick those up. It'll probably be me. I want to thank our generous hosts, CUNY Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez, and the New York City Council of Technology, and the New York City College of Technology President Russell Holzer. Can we give them a round of applause? Also, we all have to behave. We're on camera. I want to thank Brick, who is here capturing this event and is proving that Brooklyn does it best. So let's give it up for Brick. And of course, to my wonderful staff, you have no idea, this cannot happen without our staffs. We know how valuable they are, so I want to thank them for making this year possible and this moment possible. And Brooklyn, 2023 was a big year. We welcome none other than Kim Council as Deputy Borough President. Can we give it up for Kim Council? Yes, thank you for applauding for her. The deputy has been putting in the work, focusing on building partnerships with our houses of worship, enhancing our bids and merchant associations, and championing a Brooklyn free of gun violence. All the while, keeping the rap career on the DL. Isn't that right, MC Kim? Yes. They didn't think we would find that one. We did. I've been so grateful to have the Deputy Borough President, especially as I travel all over the borough, and yes, sometimes even crossing a bridge or two. We made the trek to City Hall, joining Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez to fight for universal child care with, yes. Public Advocate Jumaane Williams and Councilmember Alexa Aviles, Councilmember Crystal Hudson to fight for the How Many Stops Act.
Councilmember Sandy Nurse to fight for commercial waste zones. Finally, they're finally moving forward. Thank you, Sandy. And countless other partners in the council to fight against budget cuts that pit those with little against those with less. We traveled this borough to celebrate thousands of young Brooklynites' graduations, the music and fun of our Wingate concerts, the festivities of the West Indian Day Parade, and the lighting of menorahs, kinaras, big Christmas trees, and even all of Atlantic Avenue to celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, Ramadan, and so many more holidays. But some of my favorite, most powerful memories happened at Brooklyn Borough Hall. Rallies filled our steps, like when we hosted the public advocate and healthcare unions 1199, NYSNA, and CIR to rally for transparency, accountability, and healthcare justice at the One Brooklyn Health System as well, or when we led a rally with Mayor Eric Adams and other city leaders to call on the state and the federal government and the private sector to do more to aid New York in addressing the migrant crisis. Celebrations filled our rooms. We celebrated Lunar New Year, Disability Pride, Caribbean American Heritage. We also hosted a winter and a summer village for kids, a week-long Brooklyn is Africa art exhibit, and our annual Ramadan Iftar. Right outside the building, our staff spent Thanksgiving distributing over 50,000 pounds of food to organizations addressing food insecurity and homelessness. And we even celebrated hip hop's 50, sorry the Bronx, anniversary by hosting the Sherman Banfield Sculpture tribute to the greatest rapper of all time, Biggie Smalls, in Cadman Plaza. Yes, yes. It was a jam-packed year, and Brooklyn is leaving it with some important wins. The New York State Nurses Association won a historic contract, setting the precedent for wins to come. And I'm looking at you, CIR, you're next. We finally convinced the state to apply for a federal planning grant to advance a 3.5-acre public park on top of decked over portions of the BQE, and guess what? Yesterday, we got over $5 million for the planning grant for the BQE decking. Thank you, Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. We're making things happen. And after years of advocacy, Summer Streets arrived in Brooklyn. Can we give it up for Summer Streets? But more than anything, we are entering this year with the distinct clarity that our city is going through a tough time. This city is struggling to meet the very most basic needs of all New Yorkers, those who have been here for years and those who have just arrived. Homelessness in New York City has reached the highest level since the Great Depression. The city's rate for processing food stamps is the lowest it's been since 2006. And when it comes to cash assistance, the situation is even worse. The city processed just 28.8% of cash assistance applications on time, down from 82% the year before. The average timeline for repairing a single vacant NYCHA unit has surged to 370 days, nearly 5 times longer than it took to make repairs in 2019. And as we're all aware, budget cuts are ricocheting through our education system. Yet this is when we need our schools the most stable and at their strongest, and we're making these budget cuts. Hate is festering in this city: Asian hate, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, and the only thing that will make a real difference in the long run are the institutions that teach empathy, integrity, and understanding. But when we need our centers of learning the most, we're forced to fight to keep them off the chopping block. It doesn't make sense. There really couldn't be a worse time. All of this is happening while over the course of 2 years, 180,000 people have traveled here from Venezuela, Ecuador, Senegal, Mauritania, and all over the world to seek refuge for a better life, only to be met with barriers of employment, long-term housing, and self-sufficiency. This is why in September, I announced a change at Borough Hall. See, when Marty Markowitz was in office, Brooklyn, give it up for Marty. That's my guy, that's my guy. When Marty was in office, Brooklyn wasn't on the map the way it is now. He made Brooklyn the international brand that it is today, Mr. Brooklyn. He'll always be Mr. Brooklyn. And when Eric was in office, he connected with every single pocket of our borough. He made sure that every part of our borough was seen, heard, and recognized. Now, it's my job to build on their legacies. In these challenging times, that means striking a balance between celebrating this borough and enhancing change or enacting change that people can feel in their everyday lives. So last fall, I announced that our office would be celebrating through service. No longer will we be directing funding or staff resources towards parties or concerts, but instead towards providing our communities with real, meaningful aid. Our city's services are strained, and we must all do our part to make sure that New Yorkers get what they need. Because yes, our city has it tough right now, but this is not the time for despair. It is not the time for infighting or excuses. It's time to get back to basics, to focus not on what we don't have, but on what we do have. Because New York City is the land of plenty, and you can't convince me otherwise. That's what makes our city special. No matter how hard it is, New Yorkers get to work and we figure it out. What does that mean for me as Borough President? It means restoring Borough Hall as a center of service based on the realities of my power, influence, and resources. So here's what we have. We have money. I have capital funding. In our first year, we made history. And New York Magazine's Reasons to Love New York list. When we allocated the entirety of our capital funds, the $45 million that you've heard so much about, to the 3 public hospitals for maternal health care improvements. Since those allocations were made, the health and hospitals team has been hard at work, busy putting that money to use by building the best maternal health facilities in all of New York City. Just look at these beautiful plans from Woodhull Hospital. Brand new, built-out labor and birthing rooms. Rooms designed with the help of midwives and birthing people, featuring birthing tubs to provide the most comfortable and joyful pregnancy experience possible. Enlarged operating rooms with double the bassinets, a remodeled nursing station, a simulation room so nurses, midwives, and OBs can get better and better each day. There's so much in store for you, Brooklyn. And I'm so excited that in 2023, we kept up the work we set out to do the year before. Because we didn't stop there. We allocated over $1 million to Brookdale Hospital for renovations to their neonatal intensive care unit. We boosted low-income solarization, allocating $2 million to HPD to subsidize the cost of including solar on newly constructed or rehabbed affordable housing. We gave Life of Hope the money they needed to acquire a permanent home for their not-for-profit. And there's more where that came from. Keep an eye out, because once applications open up, again next year, you can apply to acquire space for your not-for-profit too. So be ready. Everybody here that has a not-for-profit needs a space, we got money for you. But this work hasn't been without its challenges. Last year, we launched a project to boost small businesses in Brownsville. It was part of my State of the Borough last year. Yes, Brunswick, or Brownsville. And what we uncovered was just how many structural barriers there are in their way. But don't worry, Brownsville, we've still got your back. The money's still parked there, it's not going anywhere. We will continue to do what we must to get the job done and get it right. And next year, I hope we have a different presentation for you. But thank you so much for your patience and grace. And throughout the year, we've embarked on new projects, new visions, and new initiatives too. We've allocated over $18 million to the Parks Department to keep the greenest pockets of our borough healthy, safe, and accessible. Marty's clapping the loudest there. Appreciate you. Nearly a quarter of that money went to the Bed-Stuy Parks Initiative, answering Councilmember Chiose's call to invest in Brooklyn's most under-resourced green space. We gave nearly $16 million to Brooklyn's public schools for STEM labs, hydroponic classrooms, auditoriums, gyms, cafeterias, and more. And we didn't forget about CUNY. We allocated $3.5 million to CUNY campuses across this borough. We made sure to provide, CUNY, give it up for CUNY. We made sure to prioritize Brooklyn's older residents too, giving $6 million to New York City Aging for capital improvements in 17 senior centers across this borough. And when Councilmember Yeager funded 3 ambulances for Hatzalah Incorporated, we upped the total to 5, giving Hatzalah Incorporated the money to buy 2 new electric ambulances, their first electric ambulances ever, so that they can continue to provide the best emergency care to Brooklynites, no matter your race, religion, ethnicity, or your ability to pay. Let's give it up for Hatzalah. Those are just capital dollars. We have discretionary funding too. I was proud to give funding to 69 NYCHA tenant associations for programming support like family days and backpack giveaways, something that's never been done before. They're going to come back for it next year too. I already know. And I was proud to give $20,000 to save the Magnolia Tree Earth Center, a hub of environmental education and advocacy founded by the one and only Miss Hattie Carlton. In this next year, we'll be putting the full force of that money towards social services and aiding communities. We'll be celebrating, don't you worry, we're still gonna celebrating. But celebrating through service. Because on top of the funding, we also have space, big, beautiful Brooklyn Borough Hall. Space where we've hosted a bustling maternal health expo chock full of workshops and classes and free resources for expecting mothers, where we welcome hundreds of neighbors for a sustainable building resource fair to help building owners comply with a local law to green their buildings. Shout out to Councilmember Lincoln Ressler. And we've offered up Borough Hall to our mayor and governor for asylum seeker relief to be used in any way that can help our newest residents find stability here. Just today, we opened up our doors as a satellite Asylum Application Help Center, partnering with the mayor to make that happen. By the time we're fully up and running, we're hoping to hit 45 appointments every single day, starting with work authorizations that'll get folks to work, which is what they want to do, and shifting wherever we're needed and however we can be most helpful. Because we believe in being a good neighbor, which is why, along with bringing resources to Borough Hall, my office is teaming up with Councilmember Ressler, the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, and WXY Studio to see how we can bring new beauty and long overdue improvements to Columbus Park right outside Borough Hall. And a few weeks ago, we got to hear all of your ideas for the future of Columbus Park. Over 100 Brooklynites joined us. We met at the famous Borough Hall, the famous Borough Hall skateboarders. We heard from new parents, longtime residents, and we imagined a park full of everything from playgrounds, open space, and public art. But it doesn't stop there. On top of funding, and on top of space, we have an incredible staff, teams of people that got into this work because of their love for this city and its residents. Our programs team, which will be using their mastermind planning skills to curate events designed to celebrate through service, from tax prep sessions to community baby shower funds. Our community affairs team, who put public safety at the forefront as they traveled this borough, attending precinct council meetings and clergy council meetings, convening with cure violence groups, and unifying the work on gun violence. And our constituent services extraordinaires. They hosted resource fairs all over the borough, focusing on everything from tenants' rights to rat mitigation. They even made their way to Coney Island the night before September's massive storm to hand out rain barrels to hundreds of Brooklynites. But more than anything, when Brooklynites called, emailed, or yes, even snail mailed, people are still sending letters to us, the calls did not go unanswered. 3,600 cases just this past year. Can you believe that? That means that when the Department of Education promised a Brooklyn mother that she'd be reimbursed for special needs services that her son requires, but the money never came, we made sure it did. When the sprinklers weren't working at Bath Playground in the dog days of summer, we made sure the Parks Departments made those repairs. And when we got reports that a Nitro apartment was flooding, we made sure that the leak was addressed immediately. And that's deeply important. Justin Brandon is not the only people filling potholes. In Borough Hall, my staff is working hard to deliver a Brooklyn for all. And we're not at it alone. Because we also have our community boards. Shout out to the community boards. Anyone here from the community boards? Yes, Camacho. We hear you, Camacho. We hear you. Nearly 900 people who love their communities and volunteer their time towards advocating on behalf of their neighbors. Last year, Brooklynites responded to my call for applications with a resounding 28% increase in applications over 2022. And this year, the applications just hit over 1,000 again this year. So this is great news because fulfilling our mission to make community boards diverse and representative will require all of the voices and perspectives that we can get. And we are doing our part at Borough Hall to make sure community boards are well-resourced and supported as the full-fledged city agencies that they are supposed to be, something we spent the last year advocating hard for. Now, last but not least, we have our formal role in the development of Brooklyn. And this year, we really stirred things up because our city is special for many reasons, most of them good. But there is a major way in which our city gets it wrong: planning. Plain and simple, in New York City, We do not plan for things as simple as making sure every neighborhood has adequate parks, has adequate schools, or affordable housing. This city has no 10 or 20-year vision to guide our growth, investment, or how resources are directed. Nearly every other major city in the world has this, and they're called comprehensive plans. London has the London Plan. Delhi has the Development Authority Master Plan. Mexico City has the General Development Plan. New York City? New York City has nothing at all. Because here, in the greatest city in the world, we don't plan, we only zone. And as a result, inequities run deep. Just look at housing. All right, bear with me here. We've long been looking down the barrel of a housing crisis. Yet in Brooklyn, some neighborhoods get away with contributing no new housing, while other neighborhoods do all the work. For example, Community District 1, which includes Greenpoint and Williamsburg, added 18,500 units between 2010 and 2020. Want to know how many units were built in Community District 18, which is Canarsie, Bergen Beach, Mill Basin, Flatlands, Marine Park, Georgetown, and Mill Island? 500. That's almost 40 times the number of housing units created in one district over another. When it comes to affordable housing, the disparity is even more stark. Over a 10-year period, Community District 5, East New York, New Lots, and Star City constructed and preserved over 12,000 units of affordable housing. Give a round of applause to them. I love all of Brooklyn. I love you all. Because Community District 10 of Bay Ridge, Dyker Heights, and Fort Hamilton, the number is a meager 7 units. 7 units. Yes. That's to scale. It is actually to scale. It's unimaginable. It's unconscionable. And it comes not at the fault of these communities, but it comes at the fault of our city. Because it's our city's job to talk about these things. It's our city's job to think about these things, to think about equity, to think about the common good, to think about all of the complex and overlapping ways neighborhoods lean on one another within this great, beautiful urban ecosystem that is New York City. But these disparities are everywhere, and they've gone relatively unchecked. It's why median household income varies as much as $125,000 between parts of Park Slope and Brownsville. It's why black women are about 8 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related complications than their white counterparts. It's why 90% of childhood lead poisoning cases involve children of color. It's why Brooklyn, north of Prospect Park, is bustling with subways, buses, and ferries, but much of Southeast Brooklyn is left with limited bus service and barely any subway or ferry services, if any at all. All of these hardships that Brooklynites are burdened with every single day could be addressed through planning. Real, thorough, extensive, comprehensive planning. That is the norm everywhere, but here. That's why this year, I released my comprehensive plan for Brooklyn, the largest borough-specific planning effort ever done in our history. This guiding document illustrates a new planning paradigm applied to Brooklyn, asking, what does it look like to plan for the public good? What does it look like to return to the heart of why we plan? To provide residents with everything they need to be healthy, housed, and supported. Our comprehensive plan balances communities' needs for healthcare, housing, transit, jobs, and much more. It clarifies local as well as citywide needs, and it sets expectations so that we can all play a role in meeting the needs of this borough and this city. It's a proposal for a different way to manage the city, a model for planning citywide, and a chance for New Yorkers to see the planning that's possible, that we deserve, and that we should fight for in this city. And we're already seeing what this action looks like. In accordance with the plan, our office has initiated legislation with the help of our colleagues on the council. We're tackling last-mile distribution centers that pollute our air. We're ensuring small businesses like daycares aren't kicked out of their city lease properties with no notice. And we're removing barriers to street safety projects. And we're not going at it alone. We're building new partnerships in government and communities to build the plan's vision for a healthy, housed, and supported Brooklyn. Which means when we see Asian American community flourish in Brooklyn, but services lag behind, we partner with Asian Americans for Equality to better support Brooklyn small business owners in the languages they speak. We'll be offering one-on-one business counseling and education opportunities in English, Chinese, and Korean, as well as access to affordable small business loans that can make all the difference. We're also gearing up to tackle the deed theft, taking central Brooklyn by storm, targeting black homeowners and robbing them of the titles to their own homes. Because part of the problem is building new housing, yes, but another is protecting existing home ownership. I'm proud that Brooklyn has its first ever comprehensive plan, and I look forward to the day when the entire city of New York has one. But until then, decisions like where housing and schools are built rest on something that is far too fickle: political will. All too often, we see housing, funding, and social services used as a pawn in a political game. We see decisions designed around elections instead of good governance, which is why last month I announced a new partnership, a partnership that spans boroughs and has been a long time coming. And I'm really excited about this one. Together with Councilmember Eric Botcher of Manhattan, we are putting together a league of pro-housing elected officials. And already this month, and I just want to give a shout out to Borough Presidents, both Levine and Richards, who are arguably the most pro-housing borough presidents in all of the history of the city of New York. And already this month, city and state legislators and their staff convened at Borough Hall to learn just what that means. Because elected officials may not agree on everything, but we should be able to agree on the facts. This city is in a housing crisis. And when I say crisis, I mean it. Crisis has become a buzzword used by whomever, whenever, to the point that people are desensitized to it. And I get it. But if it's a crisis, why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Because from where I sit, it's pretty clear that we're in a code red housing and homelessness emergency. And I want to be sure everyone understands that. For too long, this city and its leaders have acted like they have a choice of if and when to build housing, when that privilege expired long ago. The latest numbers show housing access in our city is the worst it's been since 1968. Last year, vacant rentals dropped to 1.4%. A healthy vacancy rate should be between 5 and 8%. Just think about that. Instead of landlords competing for tenants, we have New Yorkers competing for homes. It's not right. We've got it all wrong. And it's time that we recognize that we have a responsibility, an obligation to build and build a lot in this city. For too long, supply has been used as a political bargaining chip instead of a real intervention to the crisis facing New Yorkers. We've got to agree that, plain and simple, our city needs homes. And we, those of us in government, are the people with the power to deliver the policies, infrastructure, and pressure to build them. Not just in low-income and black and brown neighborhoods who typically do all the work, but everywhere. At the very least, we should definitely agree that it's unacceptable for New Yorkers to be upstaged by Minneapolis. I'm going to get a tweet from the mayor of Minneapolis. I don't know. Which, in case you didn't hear, happened just a few months ago when the Financial Times showed that not only was Minneapolis able to build more housing than any other large city in the region for years, but average rents in the city decreased by more than 20% since 2017. And that's not staying the same. It actually decreased. The rents went down. Cities around the country are embracing pro-tenant, pro-housing measures, whether it be building everywhere or allowing owners of single-family homes to add more density should they choose to do so. But we're not doing the same. In New York City, we're not looking so hot. Because in New York, we keep getting distracted and caught up in spats and games that sacrifice our people to politics. And I'm tired of it. All of us are tired of it. It's time to go back to the basics of good governance, of a healthy, vibrant city, the basics of Brooklyn. Because while this city is facing new problems, climate change, evolving technology, changing jobs, the solutions will always be born from who we are as New York. Take freight, for example. New York City is facing mounting pressures to address how we move goods around our borough and in our city in a way that is safe, sustainable, and efficient. Well, did you know that in the 1930s and 40s, New York City had the largest, most frequently used, and best-known port in all of the world? There's two people know. So two people know. In 1939, the Port Authority employed 400,000 people. Today, the Port of New York and New Jersey combined employ half that number. The Red Hook Container Terminal is the only, all right, Red Hook. You always know when they're in the building. Red Hook Container Terminal is the only container terminal left that can provide direct vessel access to Brooklyn. And 90% of goods are moved into and around our city by truck. The port's heyday ended in the 50s as federal policies and car-crazy leaders like the horrible Robert Moses ushered in a new era that shifted transportation from water to blacktop. The shift to trucking has not been without consequences. The decline of maritime industry meant a loss of jobs and public and private disinvestment from our waterfront infrastructure. Meanwhile, New Yorkers living along truck routes continue to feel the lasting impacts of high asthma rates and dangerous streets caused by increased truck traffic. The recent rise of e-commerce, Amazon and company, has only exacerbated the problem, with concentrations of last-mile warehouse facilities leading communities like Red Hook to be inundated with trucks. And Sunset Park. There you go. That collaboration is what I'm looking for. I appreciate that. At Borough Hall, we're coming up with a plan to address these issues. Our city and state are already exploring how to revive freight. We've got plans like delivering green, blue highways, the New York State Freight Plan, and Freight New York City, to name a few. My plan is to make Borough Hall a hub where we can bring all of these resources together, encourage interagency coordination, and envision the future of freight in our borough. I want to foster a new vision that puts communities first, supports a vibrant working waterfront, gets trucks off our streets, and creates green jobs for Brooklynites. And we're doing it not by reinventing the wheel, but by remembering why our city became a hub of commerce in the first place, our waterways. What it comes down to at the end of the day is who we are and who we always have been as New Yorkers. We are a city that does not make excuses, no matter the circumstances we are born into, no matter the challenges we face. We show up for this city and we deliver on the dreams of opportunity in which New York was born. We don't fearmonger. We don't pit those with little against those with less. We use whatever we can to do right by ourselves and our neighbors. I love New York. I love Brooklyn. And I refuse to accept a scarcity mindset, even and especially in the face of adversity. Our parents, our grandparents' grandparents, who chose New York as a home, didn't do so because the city is free of hardship or because it's always easy. No, they decided to call New York home because of the promise it stood for, the promises we must continue to stand for. It's time to return to basics. And in Brooklyn, that means never giving up, never making excuses, and never abandoning our neighbors. In this borough, the County of Kings, that means spreading love because it's the Brooklyn way. Thank you so much and have a great night.